Hi guys, this is Shivadi. In this session, I'm going to explain Angular directives interview question and answers with an example. Let's go ahead and start. Angular directives are extended HTML attributes or the element that add behavior to the DOM elements. These directives allow developer to manipulate the DOM, bind the data to the HTML elements, and modify the appearance or behavior of the HTML elements. There are three types of the built-in directives are there in Angular. The first one is the component directives. Second one is the attribute directives. For example, ng class, ng model, ng style, and structural directives, which is ng if, ng for, and ng switch. Let's go and understand each one with an example. So the first one is the component directives. Components are the main building blocks for Angular application. Now, if you take any component, it basically have the few things. One is the template URL, which is nothing but the HTML template that declares what renders on the page. The second one is the TypeScript class itself, and the next one is a selector. The selector that defines how the component is used in the HTML template. And finally, which is optional, the CSS file. So this is going to used for applying the CSS to the HTML template. Now the next one is the attribute directives. Attribute directives are going to used for change the appearance or behavior of a component or an element or another directive. So there are three different attribute directives. One is the ng class. Ng class is used for add or remove a set of CSS classes, and ng style adds or removes a set of HTML styles, and ng model is used for two-way data binding to an HTML form element to the component. And the next category is structural directives. Structural directives are used for changing the layout, changing the DOM layout by adding and removing the DOM elements. So by using this ngIf is used to add or remove elements based on condition. Ng-for is used for iterate over the list of items, and ng-switch is similar to the other languages. It basically takes an expression. So whatever the input value match with that particular expression or the case, that particular block will execute. So this is called as a structural directives. Let's understand these three different directives with an example. So in order to demonstrate built-in directives in Angular, I have created this directives example component class. Here in this particular component class, I define few properties like show message, items is the array of strings, value which is assigned to B is active true, has error false, color we assign with red, font size 18, a name we have defined it as a Siva Java Techie 1. Now let's look at the HTML code for this. So here I have heading, I put it as an Angular directive example, and I have implemented few code snippet to demonstrate this structural and attribute directives. Now if I say ngIf, ng-for, ng-switch, these three falls under the structural directives. That means by using these structural directives, you can add or remove elements to the DOM. First, let us look at the ngIf. So ngIf, it basically checks the condition is true or not. If it is true, then this particular session will be added to the DOM so that it will be visible on the HTML page. If it is false, it will ignore it. Then next one is the ngFor. ngFor is going to iterate over the list of items. So here let item is a keyword. Item of item. Item is the each time it is going to iterate over the collection. It will display onto the HTML page. The next one is the ng switch. Ng switch is taking this particular value which is bind to the data examples component, and then whichever the value it is going to, whichever the case it is going to match that particular ng switch case it is going to match, that will be added to the DOM. And the next one is about the attribute directives. ng class, ng style, these are the attribute, and also ng model. These three are the attribute directives. So active, these properties which is derived through the these are properties bind to the component class, and then which is going to be replaced with these values, and accordingly the style will be applied. That means Angular attribute directives are going to be used to change the behavior or appearance of the HTML elements. Now, finally, we have ng model. This is used for the two-way binding. So let's go ahead and execute this program and see what is the output. Okay, so if you see here, message is visible because for this show message in the component we have given as a true. If I go ahead and mark this as false, now let's go ahead and look this output. So message is hidden now. Okay, so the next one is for, which is again iterate over the array of strings and then it is printing. So that's the reason here you see item 1, item 2, item 3. Now let's go ahead and add one more item to this array. Item 4. If you see here, it is added. Now the next one is ng switch. So as value we have given in the component class as a b, that's the reason currently it is displaying option B is selected. If we go and update this particular value to A and save it, if you come here, see option A selected. Okay, so the next one is ng class and ng style. So it's again depends on the conditions this particular property is going to be set. Okay, so this is active is true, and then whatever the color we set it, this is the red. So that's the reason if you look at the output, it is showing it as an Angular directives example in a red color. Now if I go and change this particular color to something else in the component, let's say green. Okay, it got changed. So the next one is the two-way binding using the ng model attribute. So two-way binding means whatever the change or the change we are doing for this particular property in the HTML, it will bind to the component, and whatever the change we are doing for the component, that is going to be reflected in the HTML page. Okay, and finally we have custom directives. Now let's say whatever the inbuilt directives are there, which is not sufficient, and you want to implement your own custom directive to add or remove some behavior to the DOM elements, then you can implement the custom directives. So in order to implement the custom directives, you can use this command ng generate directive if you are using the Angular CLI, and you can provide the directive name. Then you are able to see this particular CLI command is going to create one directive or TypeScript file. Here selector is one of the important attribute, because at the rate of directive and then selector. This selector is the one which you are going to apply if you want to use this particular custom directive. And also in this particular directive you can specify the constructor, which basically takes the two inputs. One is the element ref, another one is the renderer. And then you can use the decorator like at the rate of host listener, and then add the behavior on what you want to achieve. So in this example, what I have done is I have basically added some code. Whenever I over to the particular text, the background color has to change, that is change it to the blue, and whenever I remove that particular hover, then it should basically reset that particular background color. Now that's the reason if you look at this, whenever I am hovering, its background color is changed to the blue. Once I remove that particular hover, then it is disappearing. Now if you see the implementation, what we have done in the HTML page, so we are using the div tag. In this I have applied the app custom directive selector. Now this app custom selector or custom directive is nothing but my own custom directive, which is at the rate of directive. This is a selector and this is the implementation. So this is how you are going to implement the custom directives in Angular. So to iterate what we learned so far, Angular directives are three types which are built in: component directives, attribute directives, structural directives. And if you want to implement custom directives, you can create a directive class by using ng generate directive. You can provide the directive name, and then in this we have to define the selector. This selector is going to be used in the HTML page. Okay, thanks for watching. Have a nice day.